.com to see more.
I think you should stand your ground on that. You are owed even more than an apology. You're owed a correction. Her to publicly say that was an emotional outburst. It is ridiculous.
It's a bad word to use. It's a
really
bad
is.
word, and it's a word that has repercussions.
Right.
And I would, as I said, she's got to know that it's very important to her. I noticed that everyone likes her, that she's accepted in all the different spaces. And that's something that will put people's guard up.
Yeah. Without nonsense, Clubhouse would be boring.
This is true. But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, so a 14 is in high school. I don't know how long it's been since she's had a high schooler, but I guarantee you the conversations are mild compared to what they're hearing.
Yeah, no, but Alice like this. So Alice very much, and I know people that are friends with her, right? And she'll be like, well, whose side are you on? Or like she doesn't like our dear friend here, Adrian John, Wisdom. So she that's fine. She doesn't like everybody. But she'll go around to her friends if she sees one of her friends joking with Wisdom here. She'll be like, where do you stand on him? I saw you joking with him about Elon Musk. And where do you stand?
Jeez. Wow.
Like, who is she? Who is she to be the outrage police? She's so annoying.
Well, that's worse than annoying. I'm sorry that happened because, again, like I said.
Jane is back. Hello, Jane. We're talking about the Clubhouse feud of it.
Hi. Hi, Al. Jane, hi.
Hey, everybody. It's Randy, by the way. Stop calling
me Randy.
Stop calling me Jane.
Randy.
So, I'm sorry. Apropos of nothing, just hearing you guys talking, I am fascinated by feuds in general. Feuds. What is it about the negativity that we can talk about feuds in our personal lives, but what prompted is in the New York Times there was an article. There's a new book coming out about the Bangles. Remember the band, the Bangles?
Sure.
That was yes.
Did anyone see the article?
Like an Egyptian?
Yes, exactly. Well,
yes,
it turns out that
Jane,
band,
we know.
they were having so much. Go ahead. They were having so much fun, but it turns out there was a feud in that band. That the Susanna Hoffs, originally the band was like a partnership, her and the other guitarist, singer Vicky Peterson. But over time, the record company, wanted to focus more on Susanna Hoffs, and so when it started, they were writing songs together. But like at some point, she began to write with outside professional songwriters, and by the end, then she eventually went solo, and now this book happened, and they did interviews, and like she's the villain of the book, according to the other band members, and she's really stung by it and surprised. I find who knew that? I mean, there's feuds everywhere, is what I'm trying to say.
But in music, Randy, aren't there like some really famous feuds in bands?
Of course. Yes, there are famous feuds.
And can you tell me what song the Bangles sang? Sorry, Jane, do you want to sing it to me?
I won't sing it.
I like Egyptian. I would never do that.
All right, so there's like 5 hits of theirs, and that's the funny thing is that
like Manic
turns out
Monday.
their biggest hits are written by other people. Like Manic Monday was written by Prince.
Oh, I like that song. Okay, that's that.
Right. They did September Girls, which is by Alex Chilton. They did Walk Like an Egyptian, which is by, I think, a guy named Jules Shear. They had a bunch of covers.
Slot machine with that song in it, by the way.
Say again?
There's a slot machine in Vegas that does the song Walk Like an Egyptian. In the slot
Wow.
machine.
So I guess some people got paid. Does it have the Bangles as their name and likeness?
I need to check now, but yeah, whoever owns that song gets paid a lot of money for it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm just wondering, sometimes, as you know, like with the Kiss jukebox or they put the band members onto the jukebox. It becomes part of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, I love feuds. I love feuds in music. And
I'm in a feud right now, Randy. I'm in a clubhouse feud. That's what it's happening.
I know.
I'm in a full-on feud right now.
Well, I always.
But that's a bad word. I'm going to say it over and over. It's a legally responsible, irresponsible word to use.
A feud?
No, the word grooming. It's grooming.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
Very bad word.
oh yeah.
I'm so afraid of being called grooming. I've stopped clipping my fingernails.
Little Howard Hughes.
I don't want anyone to say Randy is well groomed. I just don't want it.
You know, I had an ex who
Oh my God.
he clipped his fingernails in the park.
Send them
Like
up.
just so the clippings were in the house.
Yes.
That's
Very
clean.
clean people. Very clean, Scott. The juice.
Was he a Cohen? Is he like a Levitical, a priestly line?
No. Basic New York Jew.
But feud.
Randy, no one ever call you a basic Jew. Never be basic.
Oh my God. What does the word base mean like these days?
Basic? It's like if you're like a basic
Randy.
bitch.
Scott, you might find this interesting. He was part of there was a period where the good schools in the Midwest were trying to get New York Jews to go. And he grew up in New Rochelle. He went to Wash U, and he says, I was the dumbest guy at Wash U. The only thing I had going for me was my New York address. But I think that was really happening.
It's called Wash Jew, isn't it? Like there's a big
Exactly.
from them.
Yes. Very good school.
Very good school. But I know a lot of New Yorkers that went there. I wonder
Are you talking about the one in Missouri?
In the Midwest. Yeah. They were recruiting in New York.
A third of the students are Jewish at like a kosher kitchen.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you go there, David?
My brother-in-law taught their Jewish history for about 25 years, had an endowed position, just retired.
Yeah, I've visited a number of times. It's a beautiful campus, but if you go one block north of the campus, you get shot. The Delamar Loop is the border between the campus and like a free fire zone.
I didn't know it was in a bad area.
Oh yeah, it's just south of a super high murder area. You could, if you visit it, you could see for yourself.
Sometimes those bad areas get a little better. You know Philly, right? That Temple, what's happening? They're really reviving that area. It's amazing.
Temple's gotten a lot better.
A lot better. I mean, that was as rough as was the roughest part of the city, and they've revived it.
Gerard Avenue is straight. I mean, look, the rents are going kind of high over there.
Yeah, all the way up to Gerard.
Yakov's here. Hello, Yakov.
My neighbor's daughter went to WashU, had a really good experience. Pre-med.
I went to A2. That's where I went.
I mean, Glenn's, it's like, I think, considered one of the best in the Midwest of the schools.
Yeah, it really is.
It's very good. A lot more people are going there than the Ivies. I've seen a boom in enrollment and people applying since Gaza. And same thing with all the Midwest schools, Indiana University. Lots of schools.
SMU also picked up a lot.
Yeah.
Where's that?
It's in Dallas. Very, very safe school.
Methodist?
Vanderbilt also. They picked up a ton.
Yeah.
God, are you a Methodist? No.
No, I mean, it's SMU, but Jane, it's like these schools were originally that, but they're not.
I went to a Jesuit school myself, American University.
It's American Jesuit? I never knew that.
I think it was. Yeah.
Who would have thought, Jane?
A Jew.
Hey.
Gene, I didn't know you were Eagle.
Jesuit or Franciscan? Do you know?
I don't know. Scott.
What's the difference? She's wondering.
What'd you ask me, Fred?
Is what?
What's the difference?
Between a Jesuit and a Franciscan?
Nothing. Christian.
Like 50
No,
pounds.
there's a huge difference. I mean, like Jesuits are
See, 50 pounds.
Jesuits are Ignatius. Like it's a different tradition. You know, Franciscans are sort of active in contemplation. That's the motto. Model after Saint Francis, who was both in the world and a contemplative. The Jesuits tend to be very academic. It's a very academically oriented order.
That's very true. I think most of the colleges have sort of shed the religious underpinnings. And what I said, Jane, was I didn't know you were an Eagle. And the reason I said that is because I know that in DC, many of the colleges are in really dangerous, shitty neighborhoods, but American happens to be in the safest neighborhood in DC.
Beautiful. Yes.
See, I would disagree with you there, Fred, because I would say in DC, my son went to GW in Foggy Bottom.
Fine. But you're still in the inner city.
Yeah, but Georgetown is like really nice where it is. So are you saying because it's all the way out in the suburbs?
Yeah,
you're
yeah, that's all
safer
it
in
is.
Georgetown?
I got
It
into
is, like,
GW
Abby, I'm
and AU, but my parents wanted me to go to AU.
Scott is
Yeah.
a Jesuit.
The
Sorry
Pope
to
is a
interrupt.
Jesuit, yeah.
I still can't figure out how that works. I thought he was a Roman Catholic.
Well, he is a Catholic. Like all Jesuits are Catholics, but not all Catholics are Jesuits.
It's like in Manhattan, you can go to school at NYU, but you're in the city. You're going to take the subways versus if you go to school in Scarsdale. You know, you're out of the city.
Did you pick my town on purpose?
No, I just know it's so Tony. It's so nice.
The Jesuits have always been the order that's focused on educating people. So that's why a lot of the schools they're more dominant.
Is BC
Fred?
Jesuit?
So in my PTR, I put an app called Crime in Place. Crime in Place is a free app where before your kids apply to college, you can look up the murder rate of the exact neighborhood the college is in. And what it will show you is, like, for example, the neighborhood WashU is in has a very high murder rate. The neighborhood that, like, you know, Sarah Lawrence, for example, is in has a very low murder rate. It's, if you don't know a city, it's actually very, very helpful. So within DC, for example, like American U is in a much, much safer neighborhood, even when you compare it to like the University of Maryland, for example.
Is murder better placeholder for violence than violent crimes as a category? Which includes like assault and rape and all those other.
Well, what's interesting about the app is you can calibrate, you can check on each crime that you're worried about, but at the end of the day, there's a very high correlation. So, like, the neighborhoods that are filled with murderers, like, I'll tell you, like, the school that has the most murderers around that still gets a ton of smart kids is USC. If you ever visit USC and you walk, you know, a few blocks outside campus, you'll see it's obvious that there's murders all the time there, but the high murder rate in the neighborhood of USC does not deter very many people. And then the final thing I'll say, because I don't want to be boring, is the University of Chicago is even worse. Every time I go there, I'm reminded a bunch of Chicago students are murdered by the local teenagers. I'm done speaking.
Abby, the answer to your question is yes,
Hold on.
BC.
Hold on, Pepe and Yakov. Hey, I just caught Fred. AU are the Eagles. I got confused with the Philly people on stage. Thank you for reminding me of the mascot of the school.
What's the app? Can you put it in the chat?
The Eagle, AU, American University, is the proud eagle.
So would you say, Scott, like Penn, I think Temple's in a worse neighborhood than Penn? Even
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm living over in West Philly right now. I mean, I'm living at 40th and, well, I don't want to dox myself, but
So,
yeah, I'm living like, I think, I mean, it's Shangri-La over here. I mean, it's like, it's not bad at all over here. And I'm like,
Do you drink beers at Smokey Joe's, or are you too old for that?
I did.
I was at
How do
Smokey
you know
Joe's.
Smokey Joe's?
Yeah, but the
How do
hell's
you
a
know
Smoky
that?
Joe?
It's a Penn establishment.
Wait, how does he know this? Fred, that's inside.
I know all the Philly inside baseball. I've spent years and years doing business trips to Philly, so I know all the shit, Abby.
Do you wind and dine people there?
Smokey
Well,
Joe's?
I'm too-
You record
so
your
for
name in
me,
the booth.
I'm too old to go to Smokey Joe's now, but when I was very, very young, I would go to Smokes and to Murph's and to Wizards and to Billy Bob's. But today, what's really interesting is when I was young, one of the biggest shitholes in the whole state of Pennsylvania was Fishtown. Fishtown was a total dangerous shithole. And today, if you go to Fishtown, it's one of the nicest neighborhoods in America. As far as I'm concerned, I would rather spend time in Fishtown than almost any other neighborhood in America.
Fishtown is nice, though.
It's
Fishtown is
so
nice.
funny. I can't bring, and you're right that people are spending a fortune there. I cannot bring myself to hang out there because I just think of it as a shithole. Even though you're right, it's like people are spending millions and the restaurants there are amazing. However, that being said, if you are at the art museum walking on the parkway and you look up at William Penn, you will notice it looks like he's peeing when he's holding
Wait,
his
you
scroll.
said it's Willie Penn, not William.
It's Billy Penn. I'm saying it to
Billy.
a room of non-Philadelphians except for Scott. However, he's holding his scroll and it looks like he's holding his penis from that angle and he's peeing on Fishtown just based on the direction of the scroll.
What about where Drexel is? Is that a dump or
It's
not?
it's nice over here. It's nice over here. I live
I have
over
no
there.
idea
It's
where-
nice over here.
Okay.
I mean, they're dodgy part. I mean, look. If I walked a couple blocks, I could be in a dodgy spot. But I mean, in general, I also think like if you're near any of the universities, like Penn or Drexel or Temple, the campus police it makes the area safer, right? Because even though they're rent a cops and stuff, just their presence dials things down a little bit.
Rent-a-cops. They're
Some of them
most
are real
places-
cops. Some of them are
Yeah,
real
some
cops.
of them are real cops. The cities give these universities like jurisdictional power over.
Generally, it's the state. They have to be state certified peace officers.
Yeah,
they have
they're-
to go through the
Yeah,
same
they're serious
academy.
policemen.
Who wants soda pop?
So good evening, everybody. It's now 9/11, 9/11. Welcome to RogerMayhem.com, the Clubhouse movie. Produced and directed by the world-famous 2022 Clubhouse Troll of the Year, Edmund Dakin. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming to the RogerMayhem.com world premiere.
It's great to be here.
Exactly. Muy nice and muy way.
Gotta work on that pronunciation.
Let me ask you this: we're a couple months in wisdom, or no, a couple of weeks in rather, to Trump's new America. How are you feeling? Is America great again? And is Clown House great again? How do you feel about Clown House?
Clubhouse does seem to be going back to its origins. However, Doge and the auditing of our federal government is exposing what taxpayers fear most, that paying into this system and having your money just be spent on total waste of bullshit everything, it's terrifying. And trillions of dollars have been spent on basically nothing. So it's terrifying as a patriotic American to know that when the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell comes on TV today, it says, we got a 20-year journey just to get over the hump. Like, America is on a fiscal, it's in a fiscal crisis now, and it's only going to accelerate. So drastic changes have to be done. In my opinion, if you're a patriotic person, and you love America, these, the GAO and the big four accounting firms, that's not the problem. The problem is Congress. The problem is the Federal Reserve spending and giving up all this money to BlackRock, et cetera, however they generate it, create it, and send it out. Inflation is a much bigger problem because if prices are high now and we still owe money in the future, we are living in an apocalyptic financial dilemma in the same way that World War II erupted. Something to that extent is going to happen when everybody realizes that this is a Pied Piper game and we're just being pushed. We're just kicking the can down the road perpetually, and everybody knows it.
Well, can I ask a question though? When it comes to economics, I don't really talk about it because I'm not knowledgeable. But like with politics and the cycles that every 2 or 4 years, I don't. does anybody really think long term in the sense that when it comes to the deficit and how much is being paid, towards paying off debt? Is that even that much of a priority for anybody, or even feasibly a priority to be I don't know, I guess be a viable candidate?
Well, don't you think that it inures to the benefit of the citizens in terms of their tax rates and what they're paying in taxes? And if the government is not as in hoc as they are, then it becomes more feasible to reduce taxes. Where I live, there's 1 out of 5 people are tipped employees, and now they're being presented with not being taxed on their tips. It's a major effect on the economy here when that happens. But you think, what about all that revenue that the government is now not going to have because all these wage earners aren't paying on the bulk of their income? However, if there's less debt and there's less expenditures, then it's trickles. I sound like I'm not talking trickle economy, but it trickles down to the taxpayer is the concept for people. I mean, just on a very elementary level. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
I mean, it could be. I mean, it's nothing I really focused on. I mean, it makes sense.
If we're saving $1 trillion, let's say he figures it out and we're saving $1 trillion, and how much are we in debt? How many trillion?
36 trillion. 36, yeah.
Okay, so it's a dent.
Yeah, but don't you think, Abby, I mean, ultimately, neither party, right? I mean, this is the federal deficit. I mean, you look at every year the deficit is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the military. That's 70-some%, right? 72% or something of the whole thing. So you could cut everything else, and we'd still be in the hole tremendously. And you can't really cut Social Security, Medicare, or the military because there's no votes in that, right? I mean, it's political suicide. So, I mean, I just feel like on some level, we're just going to go. I think my friend Wisdom is right here. We're going to go on and on and on until we break the bank, until there's just a crisis, because it takes too much political will to figure out how to balance the budget, because the real stuff that is the budget, those 3 things are just not really touchable.
Yeah, if you knew they cleaned it up, would you feel better about paying your taxes if you felt like it was a more well-oiled machine?
What you don't understand is you're all stupid low IQ people. Welcome to RogerBam.com, the Clubhouse movie. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Wah-wah. You're all here talking, thinking like you're going to change everything, especially this Pepe guy. What is he, a frog? No, he looks like a fag with a microphone. Necro,
Yeah, I think it's
are you
interesting.
alive or dead?
Yeah, all right.
Dr. Baby,
obviously, it's no
are you
longer
a
a
baby?
serious room. So
This is actually not funny, and you're not funny. Yeah.
I thought it was a little funny.
I had a question for Pepe, but I guess he's gone.
Did Sasha just ruin the room?
No, I didn't ruin the room. I added
The
some
question
spice.
wasn't for you, I'm sure, Sasha.
Well, Necro, are you alive or are you dead?
I don't know. Do I sound dead? Do I sound alive?
Your name, you silly spanker. What is your IQ?
Yeah, I'm
Is it
speaking to you right now. Do you think I'm dead? Do you think I'm alive? I'm speaking to you right now.
your name? If you
Am I undead? Let me ask you this question. Am I undead?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's more appropriate.
Well, Peppy thought it was a very unserious vote. Scram.
Peppy fucking
Pepe, who had such
Wow.
Pepe would sleep. He brings such gravitas to the room, Pepe. I know he can't dignify this with a response.
It's not a serious. Oh my God, he calls Oh my God, that was
Because I think it was
interesting.
interesting. I was going to ask Pepe. I mean, isn't he an isolationist?
It's a mental patient. Who cares?
Jane, I just want to say, speaking of race relations, Uncle Steve has not used the N-word for 9 years. Just on the
Oh,
record.
what a guy. What a guy.
On the record, 9 years.
Get a lie detector.
Hey, Alan, wisdom. To answer your question, no, I didn't destroy your room. It was diminishing before I came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think it's interesting, Scott. I mean, you stole my thunder because I was going to point out simply that I think talking about the debt is a moot point with the U.S. government because it doesn't matter which party, neither of them their actions seem to show that they really don't care about bringing down the debt, either side.
Because there's no votes in it. There's no votes in fixing this problem, right? Like, so it's just the parties blow it up in different ways, right? Like, so it's not like they spend it, but both parties are going to continue to run the debt up and up and up and up because that's just what's popular.
Well,
Yeah.
Is anyone going to check on Pepe? Scott?
Yeah, emotionally, is he okay? Is he okay, Jane?
Clubhouse. We're going to change the world here if we have conversations. No, won't we?
We are the world.
Yeah, I think really to me, it's just like really one of the things that's also should be known is that, I mean, under Clinton, there was a surplus from the deficit that we had, back then. I mean, the deficit is nowhere near as bad as, politicians make it out to be. If anything, it would save us from the recessions that, we could have had.
Nobody cares, Greta.
Can I, I'm late to the party here. What the hell is going on in the title and with the link? I don't want to click on it.
That's okay. You don't have to click on it if you don't want to see the greatest movie ever made out of Clubhouse called the RogerMayhem.com movie and experience. Go to RogerMayhem.com to see the incredible Clubhouse experience. Over 5,000 videos of Clubhouse recordings. I like to call it low IQ dumb people talking about nothing. How to waste time.
Wisdom. I mean, I'm only interested in if I'm in the movie, considering that Roger blocked me.
I thought he died.
No, he's not dead. He just, I don't know.
I heard a lot of ladies crying about it.
He moved to the side of his parents' basement that does not get reception.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, it's just in general, it's like, I can't believe Roger, doesn't do, the kind of that he's not being funded just to shit talk people on Clubhouse, because doesn't he have anything better to do with his life with how much time he spent on Clubhouse? But yeah, I mean, Roger blocked me because he was sick of.
Wisdom, is that your the link? Is that you with the bald head? Oh, that's okay. That's cool. I like that. That's nice.
He was sick of the fact that, to me, it's like that I think the healthcare system in the United States is shitty. He may say I'm a dreamer, Roger, but I'm not the only one.
He blocked you for that?
Yeah. I mean, more specifically, it was like, to me, it's like, I had zero sympathy for, I mean, I would not have done what Luigi Mangione did, but I mean, the fact that I'm supposed to cry a river with a guy who made a living, made millions of dollars off of denying people claims, which, resulted in their deaths just so that he could have $1 million more. I mean, he gave zero fucks about their life, so I give zero fucks about his life. So,
What pisses me off most about Elon Musk is that he knocked Luigi off of Instagram as the king of Instagram. Like, I thought the Luigi memes were so much better than the Nazi Elon memes. Although don't get me wrong, I like the Nazi Elon memes, but Luigi, I love Luigi.
Yeah, I mean, I like the
Nazi.
Are you sure you're not resentful because you're successful, Scott?
Yeah. Scott, I mean, the thing is, that's the thing I wouldn't necessarily be on board with saying.
I mean, I would not have done what Luigi did. Now, if I was the president, don't get me wrong, I would have been more likely to give him a commutation of his sentence. Like, I definitely think it's unfair that they're seeking federal capital punishment for him. You know, I mean, I think that that's completely unfair. But yeah, I mean, he killed one person. Meanwhile, the guy that he killed made millions, you know, off of people dying. But the government only gave a shit about the guy who killed one person just because he had more money.
So, what do you think is a good strategy for not killing people if you somehow determine politically, legally, ethically, you say to yourself, I'm going to kill that person? Like, do you really think that that is what, you know, you should do? I mean, how do you talk yourself out of that?
It's called
Meditation.
a reframe. The reframe, yeah. You change the game. If the game is too difficult to play or unpalatable or you don't like it, you do a reframe. You change the game.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, it's just in general, it's like, you know, what to me I was really, you know, proud of was the fact that, you know, even the right was outraged because, of course, it's not just something that it's an American. It's purely people versus profits. This issue. So, but the media was trying to make people feel sorry. You know, and the thing is, Donald Trump was saying he could not understand why people were like, you know, why somebody would have done that or something like that. Why he doesn't understand why people would be praising it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, a person who has never struggled to try to make a living, it doesn't surprise me that he doesn't understand.
It surprises me that you're Necro. You sound like someone who thinks the word populist is bad.
When did I say that?
You never said it. That's my impression of you, which I don't know yet.
And yet you made the claim?
Yeah. But, so defend yourself, good sir.
Well, I wasn't the one who made the claim about myself. You did.
Again, this is another.
Are you friends or this is new?
90 IQ clubhouse people.
This guy, whoever this guy is.
He did say you strike me as, which is an I statement, you know, if that helps.
Wait, Jason Barajas is done that? I thought he got deported. Jason, are you still in the country?
I statement.
Yeah.
It's
Jason,
okay.
they didn't get him. Jason, you're still in the country? Yeah, I thought the cat caught your beaner ass. What happened? You're running.
Hey!
They tried to put me in a burrito. Couldn't do it.
Well, that guy. Jason's dodging the ice, man. He's they don't fuck with him.
The only ice that I need is inside my cup.
Yeah.
That's why.
So wait, I got a question for you, Necro.
World premiere movie.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so the thing about Luigi Mangione, do you think what he did, you know, was a good thing?
No, I don't.
So, I mean, how are people justifying this? I mean, you don't agree with people justifying it, do you?
No, I don't. But I understand why, you know, I mean, why he would have done that, same reason why the French Revolution happened.
Oh my gosh. The problem for me is that when you know, your position is essentially, I think, superfluous because healthcare and a corporation like United Healthcare, if you get a denial of claims, you know, I mean, what I don't understand is the Constitution doesn't give anybody a right to healthcare, to unlimited medical services and, you know, experimentation and science. I mean, you know, the average lifespan is
What Western country doesn't want to
Well, it's
have
not just
basic health?
no,
Come on,
hold-
wisdom.
Hold on a second. I just want to respond to that. So you're suggesting that simply the fact that to me that people are angry with United Healthcare means that they're believing that they're angry at United Healthcare simply on the basis that they're allowed to make money. Well, that's not even the case. Like, how do you explain the people, even people who are themselves are sick of United Healthcare, who themselves are against universal healthcare, like, which encompasses the majority of people on the right?
Yeah, but that's like going to Bank of America, holding them hostage with a gun and saying, "Give me everything in this fucking bank because you guys took it all from me 10 years ago." I mean, when you're sick and you're dying and you get denied treatment of services, to think that, I guess what I'm trying to say is like it's a fucking business. Like that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that there is this major problem in terms of intelligence with the people who support Mangione and think that what he did was a good thing as opposed to a dastardly deed, when he could have created an Instagram account and created a resistance or got involved politically or voiced a message through nonviolent communication or even aggressive communication. You see what I'm saying? Like there's that crossover from words to violence is really what we use words for, is to educate ourselves to a state of equilibrium where there's no longer the desire or even consideration to commit an act of violence. So I just get the feeling that a lot of these memers and communicators about Mangione and the support of him is just a reflection of their own understanding of mortality and of death itself, and of, again, basically it's politicization, in my opinion. It's just political communication.
So how long was he a CEO for? That would have been my question. Wasn't he only since 2021? So what kind of policy did he write under his administration that canceled out people's policies, hurt the public in which the healthcare they did or did not receive?
Yeah, I think you're making the point that it's not even personal. Yeah, it's a vigilante. It's basically a non-discriminating attack and for political purposes.
No politics in it.
You think there was no politics in it?
I feel that's no politics.
No, it's like pure politics. No, you're making the point that it's pure politics, that his assassination was a message, but because he was only in charge for 3 years, how the fuck could you execute somebody over a 3-year career lifespan versus all the previous CEOs? It doesn't make sense.
So can I basically go? So I think really your idea that people were angry, that people were simply angry at the fact that Luigi Mangione killed him because he would not provide healthcare to everybody. Well, if that's the case, why did he go after the health insurance provider, not just some doctor who would refuse to give money to people because they didn't have insurance or things like that? I mean, the thing is, the United Healthcare, it's not just, a system that refuses healthcare. They make a living, basically. I mean, one of the ways, like, they've maximized their profits by denying people off of healthcare.
But the profit comes from the government. Without the federal government and Medicare, there would be no profit. So who's the originator of the profit? The fucking government, the taxpayers. And the taxpayers aren't even paying for it because they're borrowing just to pay it.
That's like saying, though, that like the mafia is, not responsible if the government refuses to, go and take them out. I mean,
So do you think then we're just living in fiefdoms of mafia states? The federal government is a mafia.
I think the healthcare insurance companies are pretty analogous to the mafia, if you ask me. In fact,
yeah, but that means all organizations have a mafia type of command and control structure or a type of deviant. Everybody's in it for themselves. Thus, all organizations are. What's the point?
How many people died because they refused to buy a couch that was really expensive? I mean, or refused to buy a really nice shirt that they really wanted or something like that. I mean, how can you say that, you know, what is necessary to save somebody's life is in any way comparable to any other commodity that people buy?
Sorry, some chick just called me the K word, and then she called me and told me to pick up, but I missed her call. What were you saying, Necro?
Yeah, I'm just saying though, it's like you're saying that we build everything on self-interest, but I mean, like, I think the difference is that I did not die because I refused to buy the watch or the Rolex watch, or I refused to buy this really nice couch.
Well, look at it this way. Mangione wouldn't have spread virally as a message if he wasn't a handsome, strapping, hairful man. If he was like a cancer patient who was 86 and was waiting outside of the hotel with a double barrel shotgun, and he was already like, fully, metastasized, and let's say he had tumors on his face, people would be like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. But because there's this youth and this beauty of disaster and tragedy mixed in with the image of a handsome man, it spreads virally. But that's the pairing of the image with the action. If it was a reverse image, like a dying 90-year-old with cancer, like it wouldn't be a spreadful message. There's no political like energy to it, you see? So the whole thing, again, is my opinion, it's all just political communication at this point. The guy's a fucking low dog dirty murderer, and it's all the social media, juice that the people are creating from. Anyways, that's the thing. It's not a big deal. It's just, I feel like if you're gonna be part of a revolutionary resistance or something, like that's a pretty bad fucking target to take out somebody who's only. Anyways, I'm not endorsing this. I'm just saying that, like, at the end of the day, I think Mangione's a fucking, he's a low IQ crazy person, really.
Well, I mean, to me, like I said, it's like, I mean, I guess really I would ask you, like, I mean, I think really what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, I don't think what he did was right. I could understand it. Like, the woman who was being beaten by her husband, I can understand why she would poison her husband, even though I would not support what she did. Is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, you're talking about a $1 trillion corporation, or however big the market cap is. The problem is they can't exist without Medicare, Medicaid, and Congress and the Federal Reserve genieing up $1 trillion a year, multi-trillion-dollar a year packages to pay for all this. So I don't know. To me, the anger is misdirected at, essentially, he's not looking at it, as he's not viewing the tertiary. He's just viewing the Medicare, or he's just viewing United Healthcare, as being the agent of evil, when it's much larger than that. The whole system is permitting it.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's just like, essentially, it's kind of like, I think, really the thing that I disagree with, it's kind of like, for people, want to say that Luigi Mangione took it out on, people, who were just agents who are not responsible for the system. I mean, but really, can we say that, I mean, was the healthcare, I mean, the CEO, I mean, his job was not just, to manage a company. I mean, his company was making money, like maximizing millions of dollars just by denying people off of their health insurance claims. Like, people were dying just so that he could have $1 million more. In fact, he created a system, like, healthcare, like United Healthcare was literally facing lawsuits prior to what just happened, prior to Brian Johnston's death, because of the system that he created of AI, where they just automatically denied people off of healthcare. So, United Healthcare, I mean, typically has had like 32% health claim denial, which is pretty high. So, yeah. I'm just saying,
I know, but why isn't there a third option? That's the
third option.
Meaning, see, the health corporation, the health insurance corporation, it's not just a paper business. I mean, it's a whole infrastructure, like what they actually provide, what they own, what they manage. It's like being their own government. They can open up offices here, open up facilities there, hire doctors there, go into this business there. it's maximum freedom, and unfortunately, it's a scam because there's no real health care in this country.
I
Most
agree with that, and that's why even people on the right are sick of the United Healthcare because we don't even have. It's not even a genuine free market with healthcare right now. It's pretty much where the few companies that already, the insurance companies who already have all the money, are the people who pretty much control what happens. There's no competition in the market.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a problem, but the problem is with the services that are being provided, let alone the preventative care, is just not there, and everybody's sitting at home looking at a screen. If you go to the gym, they're on a screen at the gym. I'm telling you, like, the world is hypnotized now, and fucking healthcare, if they were going to provide real medical services, they'd teach people how to dehypnotize. Because
You sound like Ted Kaczynski. Gotta be honest.
I don't think so. I mean, the cell phone is the new cigarette.
Essentially, the reason I say that is because he was the one who made the idea that.
No, I don't mean, I'm not going that far. I get that part. Like, I know the manifesto and all that's anti-technology. I'm not an anti-technologist or anything like that. I'm just saying that, like, people need to go to the gym. They need to have a nice dinner. But they need to get some sun. Like, they need to stretch. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, the cell phone is taking people away from a physical life that keeps them healthy and strong and happy. Most people are just doom scrolling and they're looking at nonsense and low value information transmission. I don't know how to compare, packets of information. I guess all gigabytes are equal. It's just a question of, some gigabytes or whatever are more high value. Like these rooms, I often ask people, just say something intelligent. Let me hear you say something smart, and then that will be your high value information transmission. Most people can't just on call say something profound or have a maxim or an aphorism or anything intelligent. They can't. They do not have that memory.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta be honest though. It's like, to me, it's like, it is true that a lot of young people are people were more like, it was like 40% of adults under the age of 30 who had positive feelings about Mangione, as much as the media was trying to make it as if a insignificant minority of people, 40% of people, of adults who are pretty much college age, maybe, or a little bit older, had positive views about it. And now it could be the case that because younger people tend to be people who are more likely to believe, who believe that Medicare should be given to everybody, such as me. But I still don't, like I said, it's kind of the same thing that I feel is like a lot of people in my age group also tend to identify more as socialists, which I don't, but I can understand why a lot of people do in my age group.
The problem is if people are socialists and they don't recognize that this is already socialism at $40 trillion, just not the socialism that they wanted. The money got redirected to other people. So, that's the problem, is for all of our debt, all that money that was created is sitting in the bank accounts of the world's richest people. So it's not sitting in we the people's account. I mean, at least Trump created a sovereign wealth fund. Like, that's finally a fucking good idea. If Norway has $1.7 trillion in assets under management, which means everybody in Norway is technically worth about $350,000. Every American is worth negative $650,000 right now. So, if you got $1 million, you technically got 3.5, $350,000 if we were to square the books and make everything even. But everybody else would be plunged into absolute chaos. Like, everybody would have to individually file Chapter 7, Chapter 13. The government would file bankruptcy. I mean, but the government can't file bankruptcy. It's not a fucking person. So I'm just saying that, like, if you don't actually examine the finances and try to create some calculations and some statistics and calendar events based off of the debt cycle, like no one's really paying attention to the books. Everything just becomes political hypnosis again. And so really focusing in on the numbers and using that as a political strategy for communication and clarity and information transfer, I think that's the best way to go about, complaining and being political is look at the
I think
numbers.
it's interesting. I think it's interesting though. It's like a lot of the things that are talked about as to the cause of all the spending or things like that. Why is it that Social Security and Medicare, things that are completely paid into, the things that are always the target or things like that, which is something that all economists agree completely that Social Security cannot have any fault for the deficit. Essentially, I mean, it's essentially the people who are things like in the system we have right now, not socialism. If anything, it's socialism for corporations, but individualistic, rugged individualism for the rest. It's essentially the new age of robber barons, where essentially everybody gets robbed, gets greater into debt, while people who are make more money have more justification, create more justification in the media with all the spending we have to why they can take more money from things like Medicare or Social Security, things that people paid into. So the system we have is, the state I'd say it's not even, genuine capitalism. It's not a free market in many ways, because it's basically where people who are already at the top, were able to decide, what is made in the economy, what is in the economy, what people provide, and what people pay for it. And that's why essentially I find it amusing that these same people, it's a projection that they'll talk about socialism as where the government decides what you get and how much you pay for it. Because that is essentially what, these corporations are. They decide how much people should pay, and what they get. So it's not even genuinely a system of the free market. So. But I was wanting to know, Wisdom. Would you say that there's anything wrong with, systems that I would advocate for, which would be essentially what Scandinavia advocates for? A private enterprise that can run, but also the government works to create a social safety net.
A social safety net sounds like a nice word, but theoretically, if everything is running as it should, there would be no need for a government backdrop because the government would be so insignificant in comparison to the already pre-existing safety net. I'm just telling you that this country has reversed itself in 24 years so dynamically and plunged us into a chaos now because it's a chaos in the future that we have to look at George Bush, Obama, Clinton really as traitors. And if you can't view Trump as being the possible restoration or liberation of the American people, we have no hope of liberation. We will work for the banks for the next 10 generations, and the banks will own us, and the banks will fascize and go crazy. Like your local police force is essentially being funded by your banking industrial complex at this point, because the government's broke. The government has nothing. The banks, we gave all the money to the banks. How about we get the bank bailouts from Obama back from 2008 when he gave them $1 trillion plus? Like, where's that money? There's a lot of money they still have on their books that the government bailed them out on. Maybe the government, see, that's the problem, is the government just keeps borrowing from central banks. It is like what George Carlin said. Like, it's a big club and you ain't in it, and there's no way you can reverse the tide, and you'll never get in the club.
Well, I agree with that, and I mean that's one of the things about 2016. The thing about Trump that I think really I like that he put to Clinton all the time, all the promises that she made. When he talked about you have been in this for 30 years. It was the most valid point he made about Hillary, which is one of the reasons I've not liked Hillary and pretty much most of the DNC, and it's why I've never registered as a Democrat, is because the Democrats are the fake, fake working class party. They lie to working people, and now a lot of the working class people are starting to see it, and that's why Democrats are losing those kinds of voters. The thing I did like about, the reason why, it's like you're right. The reason why a lot of people do like Trump is because he goes against the establishment. My problem is that that Trump really doesn't have interest in lifting up everybody's lives as much as people think he does. And if what happened in 2020 during the pandemic, he created as an opportunity for when people were struggling to make ends, to be able to afford food or their apartments. It was an opportunity for companies like Amazon, Jeff Bezos, to continue to rake in more money while everybody was struggling to feed their families. So, I can see why people like Trump, why Trump has this sort of appeal. My problem is that Trump really doesn't have the interests of anybody else, as much as he's not a person that the establishment hates him. And that's frankly the only reason, the thing I liked about in 2016 was that he was evidence that everybody, doesn't matter Republican or Democrat, both him and Bernie Sanders were evidence that everybody was sick of the establishment screwing them over. So.
Well, see, the problem is there's always a great liberator. A great liberator always seems to keep reappearing. It's like that. It's like the sword, with King Arthur, where he tells Percival to go throw the sword in the lake, and he says, "We can't lose Excalibur because don't worry, Excalibur will rise again." So Trump is essentially the resurrection of an energy, and people tend to vote towards the center mass of density or destiny. So there is a way, and Trump, based on the voters, he is the way. So when he has Doge programmers going into all these platforms and looking at the financial transactions, and they're like, well, what is this for $1 billion? And they're like, well, that's part of this program. Let's pull it up. Let's look at it. They're exposing a lot of reckless spending when the country is so much in debt. It's terrifying to know that that they were on track, if it wasn't for Trump, to just dump hundreds of billions of dollars into bullshit. And the country's broke. That money has to go back towards paying the debt. We can't lie to ourselves and say words don't matter and numbers don't matter. We have to be honest with what we're thinking and what we're saying, and go to usdebtclock.org and say, okay, I'm personally responsible. Because the problem is, it's the now. The now is all important. You can cite Bill Clinton, you can cite Obama, Bush, it doesn't matter. Now is all that there is. Everything else is just a memory. So I'm just saying, I'm trying to find the time to even try to do some statistical and financial analysis so I can at least report some findings and put some numbers on the board and look at some calendar dates and try to figure out, when is shit going to become insolvent? Is the prediction for Social Security depletion accurate? Because if the Federal Reserve will do what Congress tells them to do, they basically, if they're bluffing, That if we just keep spending and spending and spending, and next thing you know, we're like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. You're actually just an accounting system. You're a tracking system. What you do is bullshit anyways, so fuck you. And then we just default on it all anyways. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like a bullshit. It's a confidence game. And the truth is, we will keep doing this lie and this communication internally, but it's the rest of the world that will eventually get pissed off and say, okay, now we're going to buy all your shit with your fake money. And then we're like, no, you can't buy all our shit. You see what I'm saying? Like there was all that fear about Japan. This is like the Weimar Republic problem, where Germany was like, yeah, we owe you all this money. Here's all the fucking money. And they're like, thank you. And then they brought the money back into Germany. Everybody's like, fucking everything is $1 million now because all that fucking international money flooded back into the country. America has to think about this in terms of like a military victory and a strategy. It's a war that never ends. And if we get the rug pulled out from underneath us, we the American people, we have no choice but to rise up and take that rug and you know, otherwise everybody's going to literally just live a meaningless life. Like there will be nothing to live for because you're just a drone. You're just a drone serving a queen bee, which is the bank. That's it. That's what life is all about, getting enslaved at birth to a bank because the system is so fully fucking automated already in 2025. Everybody is born into a fully automated disaster. You're automatically born into horrific debt. And you don't, you know, that's the facts. You can go to usdebtclock.org and debate it, but it's right there.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's like, to me, it's like, I just think, you know, I mean, for anybody to talk about, you know, the national debt, I think it's kind of a viewpoint because it's like whichever party it is seems to, as much as Republicans will talk about it as an issue whenever Democrats in power, actions speak louder than words. And I mean, you know, Republicans, they'll ask, you know, how are you going to pay for things like Medicare, things like that. But we'll never ask the same thing about how they're going to pay for the wars, the bailouts, for all of the interventions. You know, they never ask for things like how they're going to pay for that because it's really just, you know, whenever it's spending that, you know, helps other people, that's really the only time it's a concern for Republicans because they know that that doesn't benefit them at all. So
I know, but the issue transcends Democrat or Republicans. It's basically, it goes all the way back to what the founders were thinking about liberty and freedom. We've cannibalized ourselves. That's not freedom. You know, it's not freedom when you eat yourself and shit yourself. That's called abomination and apocalypse and self-destruction. This country and the citizens have no idea how much money they're on the hook for. This has been a giant scam and a fucking accounting fraud on top of it because the accounting analysts never said, hey, what are you guys doing? You can't spend all this fucking money we don't have.
yeah, exactly. I just think that the system that we have you know, it's like, I agree. It's like the system we have. That's why if you saw a comment that I made earlier in chat, I said that I'm, you know, a real libertarian because I've given up on the government.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't even like to use the term libertarian because, I mean, most people can't even, you know, essentially extract the term liberty from it. And people's definitions of liberty are so, you know, on such a wide index that it's like irrelevant. I don't know. I just get the feeling like people have to know that.
This was profound. Let me interject for a moment, and I want to share this quote, which I think really resonates with how a lot of people are feeling right now. So I saw this quote, and it goes like this. And they say that a hero can save us. I'm not going to stand here and wait Yes.
Anyways, I just think that even what we're doing is politicking, but anyways, I'm gonna try to run for the Chicago Property Tax Appeals Board and Assessments and take out this commissioner who got popped for DUI a couple months ago. So I believe that essentially property taxes is like the big political elephant in the room because most people have to work 30 to 60 years to pay those property taxes and it just never ends. And many people get incredible property tax breaks that everybody else has to pay. And everybody's standard of living goes down because that money gets shuffled to teachers and their pensions. The whole thing is a giant fucking how much longer can we keep kicking this can down the road until finally everybody wakes up and takes political action and actually changes the collection and payment of money. And the lawyers in every major city, do you know how many lawyers there are in the country and how much money goes through property taxes and how many lawyers get their cut for their appeal process? You're talking a huge numbers. It's like $1 billion. I mean, it's multi-billion-dollar a year industry. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge business. And the fact of the matter is, those are called parasites. Your local property tax appeal attorney is nothing more than a parasite. Most personal injury attorneys, parasites. Most healthcare insurance corporations, parasites. Most financial advisors, parasites. So I mean, this is commercialism, though. It's just parasitism economy, and that's really what the problem is. I think the biggest complaint is that we are essentially a parasitic economy, and in my opinion, it's just like the thing is so drained already of its blood. I mean, there's not much hemoglobin left to keep drinking from people, and eventually, I mean, the chickens are going to come home to roost. I mean. See, BlackRock is going to buy all the housing, and it's not just Americans, owning the investment. I mean, it's everybody around the world. The whole system is like geared for yield and for optimization and categorization and micro strategy. So it's insane, but we do this to ourselves, which is the weirdest thing, because if you're a republic. It's essentially about the survival of the people. It's supposed to be like a society of knights protecting the people. But unfortunately, we're just like, cannibalistic. So it's a horrific system. I mean, many people's lives are just cut short because we waste so much money on international adventurism and really supporting a corporate special interest. So I don't think none of these observations are new though. Like people have been having these observations for probably forever. So no matter what we call the system, there's always the same base complaints are always going to be there. That's my opinion. It's just a question of words. We're like calling it something else.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's like there's no way that you can
I mean, have you ever, Necro, the point is, have you ever thought that maybe it's a you problem and not a government problem, not a healthcare corporation problem? Like, that's what Mangione couldn't figure out. That it wasn't the CEO of United Healthcare's problem. It wasn't Medicare, Medicaid's problem. It was fucking a Mangione problem. So, like, I'm trying to point that out to you as well. Like, the double entendre of coming to the realization that the system sucks is also that you suck. And that you are not automated. You're not optimized. You haven't figured out a way to essentially fight back against the system and come out on top. Like that's the ultimate game and puzzle piece. Like that's the chessboard. So, I mean, that's the double-edged sword where you can complain and be accurate in your assessment. But if that's true, I mean, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Because then it becomes so much more of a complicated game. So, if you're lazy, you're lazy. But like, if you actually want to try to figure yourself out and then come out on top, I mean, that's a much more exciting and fun thing to talk about or to engage in.
Yeah.
Which is essentially run for politics. If you like talking about politics, just run for some local or state representative position and have no fear. Do it.
I thought about running for president in my 40s.
Well, that's a waste of time. You have to actually have some achievable goal. You need to match, you have to match the action with what can be achieved, not, fanciful flights. I mean, it's impossible.
Gotcha.
Just an idea. But this is the Roger Mayhem movie. Go to rogermayhem.com to see the full Clubhouse experience. Over 5,000 Clubhouse recordings of low IQ dumb people talking about nothing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though. It's like Roger, when he blocked me, he's like, I'm going to report you to the feds. It's like, I hope that, like I would be disturbed to see what's going on in your search history.
Oh, I heard a funny joke about, do you know Sam Kinison?
No.
He's a famous stand-up comic from the 90s. He would scream a lot. He'd be like, I got married 2 years ago. Oh, I'm in love. Oh, I go back to the house. She opens the door. She cooks me dinner. I'm in love. And then he's like 3 years later, and I'm fucking banging my head against the wall. He's a screamer. That's his whole shtick. And so he has this joke where he's like, did you hear about the gay necrophiliacs? And so he goes, yeah, these gay guys, were passing money to mortuaries and asking for private seclusion with dead cadavers. The fresher the meat, the better. So he gets on the floor and he starts humping the floor. And then he starts whispering into the mic. He's like, Jesus Christ, you killed me. I'm sitting in the mortuary and now you're fucking me in the ass. You're fucking me. Oh my. He's humping the floor. There's just something so dirty and funny about it. And the way the way I said it just doesn't give it justice. But it's called the Sam Kinison documentary. It's a movie about this comedian's life and his tragic demise. But he was very popular in the US because he's technically like a George Carlin. It's a liberation theology mixed with political, complaining or analysis or satire.
I gotta say, I just want to say though, I think really the only thing that really came out of what was it? Just while we're on the topic of the shooter, because I really don't like to talk about the government. I just like to talk about the things that came out of America that I like, because that's the only thing I can know that there's been change for the better. The fact that America was, seemed to be pretty united, even though the media was trying to, completely divide us on the issue, that they realized it was something that they couldn't do. But
yeah, but I mean the problem.
I guess the question I would ask for your wisdom on Trump is: do you see his tariffs as something that's going to benefit Americans? Because I understand people make the arguments about Trump's going to bring back jobs, that he's going to create more American jobs, and so he's going to make America great again. But ultimately, the people who are going to pay for it, as much as he says that countries that have the tariffs are the ones who are going to pay for it, we all know that that's bunk. I mean, the people who paid for it. I mean, this is just the basic way taxes work. When you tax anything, it only increases the cost for consumers.
That's how you incentivize people not to buy it. So.
Yeah, but that's not a question. That's like complaining about tariffs and saying that they're ineffective. And my response
Well,
to
I asked
you,
you essentially, like, what I asked you though is that do you see it as something that would actually make America great ultimately?
that's just a cliche term. And I got to tell you, like, as a teacher of wisdom or a student of wisdom, you fail to see any kind of a philosophical rationalization for your complaints or essentially your analysis, because you are the prima causa. Your analysis is part of your problem, meaning that you aren't even trying to fix yourself. Like, at a physical level, at a psychological level, at an information level, the things that you're talking about are really irrelevant to your own optimization in life. I mean, unless maybe you were transmitting this message or doing some type of like organizing. I mean, to just talk about it. That's why I reframe every room as low IQ dumb people talking about nothing, wasting time. Because the thing about God is my rationalization is just based on the word. The two first letters are go, and backwards it's do. So do, go, go, do. That's action. That's karma. So the word God is really just karma. And if you are just going to do analysis, which is complaining, and never take actual action and go and do, you fail to see, the magic or the miracle that can happen with action. So my question to you is, I mean, instead of wasting your time, looking at tariffs or doing other kinds of political economic analysis, I mean, what are you doing personally for yourself in terms of self-development? I mean, you're a decent public speaker, I mean, you can improve, but nonetheless, I mean, like, what else are you doing for self? I mean, what are you doing for your life?
Well, I'm going to school right now. I would say that I kind of regretted going to the school that I'm going to because I could have saved, I think half of the money that I took out by just going to a regular state school as opposed to the university that I'm going to right now. And I also could have lived where I wanted, but yeah, I'm finishing up a degree. I mean, given that the school I go to has pretty good notoriety, though, I think that might be something that would be more favorable to employers, though, as opposed to just going to my state school. But, as I don't know if you're a person who is paying off student debt, but I mean, for my generation, it's like, it's something that, is really crippling us, and, I mean, it's like it's something in which the government has been screwing us over with like giving us like state subsidized loans because that gives administrations and colleges the ability to be able to upcharge by students being allowed to be given more money.
Dude, I get it. I get it, man. I get it. You're saddled with debt already and you haven't even started working. It's an unfortunate situation you have created for yourself.
Well, it's interesting that you assume that I've never worked before, but I used to have.
No, I'm talking about like post college, basically.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry that I misunderstood, but but yeah, I mean, like I was just working a job doing menial labor for multiple jobs, and that's kind of what incentivized me to want to go off to school because I'm like, there's no way I can continue doing this because I mean,
well, there's a lot of documents you haven't read. Okay, I've spent a lot of time acquiring like esoteric philosophy, and they're basically neurolinguistic programming manuals, and one of them says do not fear money. So you have a fear of the unknown, or essentially the feeling that it's not worth that you bought a lemon to a certain extent. But the point is you don't have to fear that. That's like in the literature, like do not fear money. So that's why I say like talking about Federal Reserve and the debt, it's just another form of politic because it really is empire versus empire.
You know, I think it's interesting. You said, "Do not fear money." I have a quote that's in my description, in my bio. It's from a song, but it's you say that money isn't everything, but I'd like to see you live without it. You think you can keep on going, living like a king, obey, but I strongly doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
money is very powerful. I mean, it has the symbols of the divine on it. So what people don't realize is it's just art. Every dollar bill, 50, 20, 10, 100, it's all just printed art. And so we're all collecting artwork and we call it money or savings and investments for the future. But truly, if you extract it from the banking system, it just becomes art. And so everybody's collecting art, but digitally. And, but most people are unaware of the fact that we are all stressed out about artwork, which is just paper money. So it's like the thing is you have to work on your intelligence or your wisdom to get ahead of everybody else, because when you get out of college and you start working at a corporation, it's going to be just like Clubhouse. It's like a fucking bird's nest, a beehive, people pecking at each other, people being rude, obnoxious, nasty, gossiping, being stupid. So you're going to face all types of obnoxious, horrible people, but wisdom books can help you course correct, adjust, maintain your equilibrium. The whole thing is your whole life is a vibration, and all of your future journeys will essentially try to disequilibrate or unbalance you. And you will go far if you can maintain your equilibrium and your balance. That's what wisdom and all these books are trying to teach you, is how to maintain a very strong equilibrium, which is basically saying you have to know the way to the center of gravity in the universe, which is really the Big Bang.
I guess really, I think it's interesting though. It's like I've been critical of like a lot of policies that are aimed. I think one of the things that as a person is that I'm in favor of moving past on race as something that we should focus on as a way to adjust things. And I'm not. Am I saying that that race is not a factor? I mean, as to how people are treated, of course.
Necro, that can all be rationalized very easily in one statement, which is the now is all important. The now is all important. Talking about race talking about race now and for extended periods of time doesn't solve any problems now. We have much bigger problems than microcategorization of fucking people's skin and ethnic history. It's fucking stupid. It's low IQ.
Well, I just think a lot of programs themselves really just, as much as I may agree with them in principle, it's just to me, I think making it about race or things like that in general is something that, really just, isn't a way to create fairness or things like that. So like, for example, there was a time when I thought affirmative action, did have its place when Black people didn't have a lot of representation in society, in schools, or in the workplace. And so I thought affirmative action did have its appropriateness at the time. But nowadays it's like, it's not like Black people can't get any sort of representation or things like that at all. And so I think in general, it's like, the thing I would, to me, the kind of affirmative action I'd be more in favor of is one that instead looked at income level, that, gave people priority based upon their income level, as opposed to race, because I just think race itself, I don't think it's fair to, people like, because what about people who are struggling, who just happen to not be in the minority when it comes to race? I mean, how is that fair to them? And
most of the problems, it's micro and macro, meaning that if we have individual problems, it's primarily a government problem, meaning that the government, since 1945 have obliterated the value of our dollar. It's worth 1 penny compared to what it was worth in 46. So they've robbed every every person alive has been robbed of their birthright, of a victory, post World War II. I mean, everyone should have been set up for retirement at birth, not inversed retirement at death. We have lied to ourselves because that's the human nature. That's human nature. It's Yetzer hara. It's evil inclination. So we are now literally living the repercussions of kicking cans and using words and lying and not being honest about what we're doing in this world, which is really violence and anger. And that's why we do regime changes every 4 years. The country has been plagued with war. Every 4 years, the country goes to war on average every 4 years. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And I just want to say, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with John Stossel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting. I think, as much as I disagree with him on almost everything, but like when he made, did this thing where he had the, affirmative action big sale, where he, charged, Black people and Hispanics 50 cents for a muffin, and white people $1, and you charge Asians $1.50. And everybody was like, that's racist. And the point was essentially, well, how is it different from affirmative action? Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it does have a point. Essentially, is that I think really to me is just the only contention I would disagree is that. Essentially, let's say, for example, it's like, you have it where one person is not able to afford because income is an issue because of their race or something like that. Which I think, but yeah, I think specifically it should be addressed at income level as opposed to race. Because I think really that addresses, like, it's why I just think making it about race ignores the central problem. Like police brutality, it's almost purely made as to be a race issue. I mean, I do believe blacks are justified in saying that it's a issue that concerns Black people because they have been mostly the brunt of it. But I mean, of course, you've had people like Tony Timpa in Texas who the police were laughing while they were, while he was saying that he could not breathe. It was on camera, and the cops were completely dismissed of all the charges. So, I mean, it's like, to me, it like, when it's made about race, it ignores the central issue, I think, of police brutality because like poor white people like get wrecked by the police too. And that's why I think essentially it's not really just white privilege, it's specifically wealth privilege that's the issue.
Well, paying your bills, there's certain standards of living that like everyone, in America you would hope everyone had. Some people I'm afraid, some people just can't take care of themselves, or some people have a lot of success, the tragedy that everyone is leaving, and everyone has a death sentence. And that's what guys like Mangione, I just don't think they understand. Like that, I hope the state of New York executes that man, and there's a press release. Mangione has been executed.
I mean, like Charles Manson, Charles Manson himself, was never executed.
But that's because he was in California.
Well, Mangione was in New York. New York has kept the capital punishment off the books.
I know, but I'm just saying I would take that job if like the government was like, we're looking for executioners. You don't have to get your hands dirty. You just have to push a button. I'd be like, I'm your guy for that. I'll do it. I think I could sleep well knowing that I'm like executing people for a living.
Yeah.
It may sound weird, but like I think as an American, you have to understand, like, what if you had two kids, some guy murders and rapes your children, and now he gets put into jail for life, and it's costing the taxpayers $120,000 a year to house, feed, and provide that man a prison, to sleep in every night. Like, as a taxpayer, do you think that's fair?
I mean, we pay more money, trying to assure that the rights of people who are put on death row are protected.
Rights of people on death row?
Yeah. I mean, do you
They're
know
on
how
death
much?
row. They have no more rights. What do you mean?
Well, because they have their appeals process, we have to pay for their, lawyers because they have a right to a public attorney,
You sure about that?
Yeah.
You mean some guy on death row can just be like,
I
"Hey,
mean, that's
Warden, I want to call my public defender and get a meeting set up before you guys decide to fucking electrocute me to death. Is that possible? Oh, yeah, let me call your lawyer for you. He'll be right over on Tuesday at 3 o'clock to set up the meeting with you." You think that's how it works?
You're familiar with the appeals process, right? I mean, this is the reason why it takes so long for people to be executed is because, they have the right to appeal.
What I'm saying is, in a system that is as broke as ours, and it's not just 40 trillion at the federal level for national debt. You're talking about hundreds of trillions in unfunded pension liabilities. So at the state level, you can also go to usdebtclock.org and view the state level debt data. And what I'm saying is that the system is so bankrupt that to continue even housing prisoners on death row, that would be one more method of efficiency in terms of turning the national debt. And until we get serious about executing our mass murderers sitting on death row, we're not even serious about the debt. It's just an opinion.
I mean, we live yes, we do have a right to an attorney that would be appointed to us if we couldn't afford it. I mean, that's what's stated in the Miranda rights. I mean,
yeah, but that's at the time of being charged, not after you've already been convicted of murder and you're being sentenced to death and there's no more appeals.
well, I mean, essentially, the attorney is just somebody who represents you on, when you're convicted.
Well, I don't know what you're finishing up your undergraduate degree, right?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you could get into med school or go to law school, do it. Do not fuck around and don't even worry about the debt because I just wouldn't worry about it. Get that next level education, do the applications.
I think it's interesting. I think I would actually rather just learn about how to repair cars than go into law school because, believe it or not, learning how to repair cars can really give you a lot of power.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You're either distributing words for a living, which I think is a much easier way to make a living. I don't like to get my hands dirty, and come home smelling like a bucket of oil, but you do you. You can either slay with the sword, you can slay with the pen, or you can slay with the muffler. It's up to you.
You're familiar with I'm familiar with some case laws. I think one of the things that I was familiar with is things on the Brady rule. So to me, it's before you plead guilty or not guilty, I would want to know from my lawyer for us to look at the evidence before we have the arraignment. Because prosecutors are, not allowed to conceal any evidence under the Brady rule. That could be that could prove the innocence of the defendant.
Listen, until you actually have legal problems in your life, or you're an attorney working with people that have legal problems in their life, you have no idea what the legal process is like, and the fact that it's essentially controlled communication, and you can't communicate outside of their control, and they won't waste their time with you. It's brutal. They don't have conversations. It's yes and no statements, and then and you're gonna have to pay. That's the whole thing. Is you are there to say yes or no excuse, and to pay. That's it. You can't talk yourself out of any of these problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just in general, I think knowing your rights as a person who is is one of the most important things. I would definitely agree with that. Like, for example, you have, believe it or not, police officers cannot tell you to put down a camera or things like that unless if, you know, it is interfering with a procedure that they can tell you to leave, but they can't tell you to put your camera down.
Well, I would encourage you to maybe not pin your life's dreams on, replacing tires and, changing out, um, mufflers and working on cars. I mean, why are you going to undergrad to just go work on cars? Now I see your dilemma where you're like, fuck, I shouldn't have. See, you're going to make, don't go back on your decision.
Actually, I'm going to art school.
Double Agent is here. Double Agent has gotten me kicked out of more rooms. Maybe not more than some other people, but he has gotten me kicked out of a lot of rooms. Yeah, shame on you, Penguin. Shame on you.
I see that Double Agent has added me. I don't know if we've met each other before, Double.
He's a regular.
What?
He's a regular on this app.
Okay. Yeah. But, I mean, to me, I think the most important court cases for me have been the Brady v. Maryland and Miranda v. Arizona. Those are probably the best court cases, I would say.
What's your favorite book?
That's a tough one.
Or what are some of your favorite books?
I really like Brave New World. I really like.
This is a good book, but I mean,
I also like the movie It, or the.
Wait, hold on a second, Necro. What'd you say, Double Agent?
Adrian Dittman is an audio on now.
Yes, he is.
Although Adrian Dittman sounds less like Moscow than he used to. I don't know why.
Well, he's changed. When he had a conference call with Joni Ernst and Vivek Ramaswamy and Senator Mike Lee, and he's stuttering, and he talks. He changes his voice when he talks as Elon Musk.
Yeah, I wonder how Elon Musk talks, so American as opposed to when he's from South Africa. I mean, I think one of the things that I've definitely been, I don't like Elon Musk by any means, but I don't like how some people have made arguments disparaging him for his autism. Because I mean, as a person who's on the autism spectrum, but I also don't like. It's a POA. I also don't like people who are, defending him what he did with his the Nazi salute, or I say alleged Nazi salute, because of course, for people who don't believe it legitimately was, like essentially they'll try to use his autism to say that he makes weird gestures. I'm autistic. I know better than to ever do something like that. So that's all I'll say in regards to that. And I don't like people who use autism as a way to excuse what he did.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you can't circumvent the law. Unless it's like, Napoleon Bonaparte blasting people in the streets with cannon fodder, which he is a military officer. I mean, the law... can you name one political revolution that succeeded?
Haitian Revolution.
I mean, the now is all important. So, like, Haiti isn't.
Oh, the American Revolution.
Okay, so what? Just America?
I mean, I mentioned, I believe the Haitian Revolution was pretty successful.
But how is it successful? Haiti is in the dumps.
Well, I mean, it was a revolt against French colonial rule about the issue of slavery. So, I don't think it was. I definitely think it was pretty successful in achieving its goal to, of abolitionism. For those people who think, especially for those people who think that white people were the people who freed the slaves, the first people to try to put an end to it. It's not true. The Haitian Revolution was the first successful revolution, arguably, and for the abolition of slavery. But I guess it also really depends on how you would define, slavery, because, some people, slave has also been synonymous historically with the word servant. It wasn't necessarily the equivalent of property, but more like just a person who worked for another person who, in exchange for goods, for services or things like that.
Okay, so I'm looking at this chart. It's the federal receipts, outlays, and surplus deficit for January of 2025 last month. Individual income taxes taken in was $305 billion. Social Security, social insurance, and retirement. That doesn't make sense. Total receipts. So the fuck? I don't understand what that means, but the point is, huh?
No, go ahead. I'll say it later.
I just don't understand how they're like equating individual income taxes with social insurance and retirement receipts. That just makes no sense. It's on Elon Musk's account. Do you know who Jason Calacanis is?
No, I don't.
He's like a billionaire. He invested in Uber and many other companies, and I've met him in Beverly Hills at AOL's headquarters, and so he's saying that we have to go harder. Doge has to succeed, otherwise the U.S. will be insolvent.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of bullshit, because the Federal Reserve says we'll just keep printing the money. It's just how hard do you want to fuck yourselves?
Yeah. I mean, just in general, I would say that, what was that? It's interesting. Abby was in the room earlier. I was meaning to discuss with her more because, to me, I think it's just, a lot of people will say that they like Trump because of America First. I think that's the most thing I can be sympathetic to in regards to Trump is the fact that, he is the idea of America First as policy. The problem, I think, this is kind of the wrench among conservatives, particularly it's between neocons and paleocons, because paleocons are pure isolationists, while neocons believe that the United States is pretty much the world's policeman, and so it's part of United States protecting freedom is protecting freedom of people in other countries, from other dictators who tried to take away people's freedoms. Essentially, this is kind of the thing that divides conservatives on the Israeli war, the war that's going on in Gaza, because of course it's like, you really can't have it both ways. If you can't say you're America First and then also be pro-Israel. So
you can't be pro-America and pro-Israel? Are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah, you can't say you're in favor of America First and then but say that Israel is special as to who you're going to help.
I'm for cutting spending to Israel as well. Everybody's got to take a cut, but it doesn't mean that if crisis calls, America isn't going to come to Israel's aid and help defend that country.
But yeah, it somehow is an issue, though. So would you say the same thing about Ukraine, though?
I'm less supportful of Ukraine, and you know, they have to make peace. I mean, peace is coming with Trump, thank God, because that has just been, you know, people have no idea how bad it is. It's hard to really wrap your head around it.
The problem really with that is just essentially Ukraine made a peace treaty with Russia about 30 years ago, where they agreed that if they gave Russia the nuclear weapons, then Russia would not attack them. And look at what's happening right now. I mean, you know, it's like Russia is not interested in peace, really.
Yeah, well, they're taking advantage of the situation, probably. Everybody's taking advantage of the situation.
Ukraine is going to have to take a deal that, you know, is not going to be good for them, sadly. But yeah, I mean, essentially, though, it's like the fact is, though, it's just essentially, I mean, yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's an issue that like divides conservatives because they're like, you know, they're constantly the people are talking about let's stop sending money to Ukraine when we have people in America, problems in America with immigration, with, you know, the people who were struck by the hurricane that happened in, you know, southeast Bumblefuck where I'm from. That's, you know, you've had a bunch of people who have been, you know, Americans who have been suffering during that time, but somehow it's like, for some reason, it's like Ukraine is the only one that's singled out. You know, it's never said about Israel from these, you know, people who say that. No, I mean, the thing is, that's not my position, but the thing is that, you know, it is certainly conservatives who say, let's, like, where we should be all the other countries. We have our own problems back at home.
Like, you know, throughout this whole thing,
you know,
right?
But then,
it could
of course,
go two
when
ways.
Israel
They could
needs
still
help,
be alive,
you
being
know,
kept,
because of
being held, and
AIPAC
being,
giving us
waiting to
so
dangle
much
that little
money,
carrot,
you
or
know, they're
they
special.
could not be. And they've just been really, really good at keeping that under wraps because they know that the entire world is looking at that family right now.
But either way, I mean, anybody's analysis is really superfluous and meaningless. I mean, it's all about how are you going to optimize your life based off of, you know, what will probably be more dynamic and rapidly escalating conditions in the country and around the world. I mean, if the stock market collapses and real estate prices collapse and the baby boomers' retirement gets wiped out, like half of it disappears, do you know how many of them are just going to croak just from having that emotional experience of seeing half of their wealth fucking evaporate? Because there's other ways to essentially pay the debt, which is essentially asset price depreciation. If the Federal Reserve contracts, like the whole thing is like a spigot, you know, and they have essentially defrauded and allowed the spigot to go for so long. And if with Trump in office and Congress being more fiscally conservative, this is why in many ways I often thought that Kamala would be the better choice for president because she would essentially just keep lying. There would have been no Doge, there would have been no course correct on spending, and we would have just kept spending it, you know, for infinity because modern monetary theory is it's just fiat. You can just keep it's just a tracking system. So it's an accounting and tracking system. It's not money isn't real. So that's the thing is it could all be propaganda where that theory is true, where the dollar really is just a construct and an abstract tracking method. That's not real wealth. You can't eat dollars. You can't build homes out of dollars. You see what I'm saying? Like the artwork is really just tracking, you know. So I mean it's all barcode. It's all barcoded basically. So anyways, the whole point is that Kamala could have been better because she would have printed more of fake tracking and more people would have had more art. That was my theory, is that when we take the oil out of the engine, that's when the whole system comes crashing down and chaos erupts. But chaos is a strategy for power, divide and conquer. So, you know, Trump is the conqueror now, and everybody is literally in his path. So
Yeah, I mean, just in general, it's like I would say that I just think Democrats need to stop crying ultimately about why they lost. I mean, essentially, to me, it's like they want to blame misinformation and people not showing up the votes. It's like I agree with that, but they act as if there's nothing that they could have done to win in spite of that. Just fuck. It's like they don't listen to the voters at all.
You should have just kicked that off if you still went out of bounds, bro.
But yeah, just in general, I mean, you had that professor, but in general, it's like I'd be interested in actually trying to get Abby's response though to
oh no, that was good. I'm trying to. I was just reading Oh, who's B? Do you know anybody named B with a fucking B as a picture?
Essentially, like how whether you're America first or whether you believe whether you're pro-Israel.
Who cares? Let me see if I can invite people.
Because of course, Abby is
Shuki's
of course a Zionist.
Who's Dr. Baby?
And I wouldn't say that I'm anti-Israel. I'm just anti-Zion, is what I am. Personally.
I don't even know how you invite people on this shit.
If you're wanting to know what my personal opinions are, is that to me, my concern is not with us funding Israel and defend them against terrorism. My concern is that the person we're giving money to is a war criminal who has killed 11,000 Palestinian children.
Oh, it shows an X, so then sure. But then it pulls out
it's very
messages and shit. I don't know.
To hear the comparison of people who are
and then when I click it, it does a check mark. Does that mean it automatically sends it?
Crimes are the equivalent of Nazi sympathizers, considering the fact that Netanyahu himself
we were on late till last night. I was like, I need to go to bed early, and I ended up
late. Revise gun tradition in
you want to hear something funny? For me to drive to Texas, I have to drive past freaking Manny's place. Literally his little small town. I go ahead through.
His intention wasn't to deport the Jews, but it was.
We were gonna stop by me and decide, but like I don't really want to waste time. Like I could, but I'm putting all my stuff in my truck and I'm driving to Josiah that Friday night. But in the morning, if I leave like Friday at like 4 or 5 in the morning, I'll be there by 6, 8 in the morning. Around that, that's what I'm estimating. And then we'll hang out and we'll get rest. We'll go out for dinner on Saturday night, and then Sunday I'm leaving in the afternoon. Then I come Monday. I help my dad pack up, and then Monday night we leave. It's crazy weekend. Crazy fucking weekend for me.
But you have the Nazi card played on so many people, I would say. I don't know if you would agree with that wisdom. That Godwin's law is in full effect on both sides.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. I think if you even ask people, are you aware of Godwin's law? Most people will not even know what that is. And
No, they don't. No, they don't. It's just, that's why to me, it's so amusing that, people who understand it,
well, what is Godwin's law? What is Godwin's law really saying? Godwin's law is saying that all communication is hypnosis and that they're just political, they're political identitarians. I mean, and it's stupid. They're the racists. It's projection. When you call somebody a Nazi, you're the fucking fascist. I don't understand why people can't acknowledge projection as being like the dominant form of communication.
Well, I guess really it's just, to me, my criticism of it is essentially it's the, in most cases it's the, it's the boy crying wolf, essentially. The boy crying Nazi, essentially, in most cases, that nobody's going to take it seriously when people come out about saying, it doesn't matter how much Donald Trump or whoever it is closely aligns with the fascists. It's like, because of the it's the same thing with like the right and crying cancel culture, because when they try to complain about just any time that like people, say that their ideas suck, that they're being canceled, after they go on the next day talking about the same opinions that they say suck or things like that. When, essentially you've had people who have literally lost their jobs or have been threatened, but now is the time where it's appropriate to say that, I'm being persecuted for having opposing views. And then you go on the next day to say the same views. Essentially, I'd say that like that takes away the real meaning of cancel culture. Going back to, McCarthyism is essentially what I would say was what was real cancel culture. McCarthyism.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The culture of America was so drastically different in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. Everything culturally changed really in the 60s. And, but change is natural. However, the thing about communists is that's really just like saying liberal or faggot, in American standards.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, to me, it's like Roger would often accuse me of being a communist because, or Kamala being a communist. And I think that to me is like the time when, like, to me, is the way in which Republicans, to me, it's like it makes my bullshit detectors go like off the charts. Whenever Republicans cry communist, like saying that, when they said, like, do you remember the days when Obama was called a communist by the Tea Party and that he wanted, essentially that's the way in which Republicans, and then how is he communist? They list a lot of the things that reasons people, like Obama or things like that, or would like Obama. Like, so like when Trump said about Kamala, he's like saying, like, Kamala is a communist, she'll give you health care. I'm like, I wish Donald Trump. Like, the thing is, Republicans make Democrats sound cooler than they really are. But
yeah, but you can get health care, but that doesn't give you health. I don't understand.
Yeah, well, again, my point was really just essentially is that, when Trump was talking about, healthcare and things like that, he even used to support, it's kind of projection, because Trump himself used to support Medicare, used to support single-payer healthcare, believe it or not. Like, he remarked himself that he's a conservative on most things, but on healthcare, that he says that, it's any, society should provide healthcare to everybody, ensure healthcare to everybody at one point.
Well, what's going on in your love life?
My love life? Well, mostly at this point, I've just been drifting. I've had a few, girls who I've slept with. And I had a girl who actually, who let me try some of her breast milk. It was pretty tasty.
Yeah, it's amazing when you squeeze a girl's tit and like fucking milk, like her lactate is spraying out, and like she's not even pregnant. You're like, it's kind of hot, but also kind of gross, but maybe more kind of cool and hot than not gross.
Yeah, she just let me. She already had a baby, believe it or not. So I got to, taste it.
Well, keep tasting titty milk and things will work out for you, you know? Because love is the way, you know?
Well, I mean, I will say, I mean, the problem is she lives on the other side of the country right now.
Oh, well, there's a lot of girls with lactate in their titties.
Yeah, I met with her when I was in Washington this past summer. You know, I think it's interesting. I've also had sex with some people who are trans, believe it or not. Yeah. I didn't know at the time. So like,
Hold on, I just puked up my orange juice cocktail in my mouth. What did you say?
I said that I've also had sex with some trans women.
You mean you fuck dudes? You're gay. You're bisexual.
I mean, I am bisexual.